Bitcoin has continued to correct, but you need to watch to the end of this video because I'll share all my charts and tell you why I think it could be reversing now or in the very near future. I'm also reviewing all of the news, the ETF party that Fidelity is trying to join, Deutsche Bank's negative remarks about Bitcoin, and so much more. Stay tuned. Happy Thursday, everyone. I'm Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of All Streets. Before we dig into all the charts and news that you're waiting to see, please go ahead, subscribe to my channel, hit that like button, check out my sponsor, Femex, who's giving you some free Bitcoin for signing up, and also think about signing up for my newsletter. Now, Bitcoin has continued to correct, and there's a ton in the charts that we can look at and a lot of news that is driving the market. So let's dig right in now to the news. First, the biggest piece of news, arguably, asset management giant Fidelity files for Bitcoin ETF. It is an absolute ETF orgy in the United States, an institutional gangbang, if you will. Everyone wants their piece of the ETF market and everybody wants to be first. Goldman Sachs also filed an ETF application yesterday, but it was for exposure to Bitcoin with a basket of other assets and not solely Bitcoin. The news here is that an ETF is absolutely coming. Van Eck has already been filed. Valkyrie has already been filed, and there's a lot of pressure to see this. 3 already exist in Canada, and 1 was just approved in Brazil. It's only a matter of time, and some say that the ETF really is the final boss for institutional adoption of Bitcoin. It would allow for pensions and endowments to plow their money into Bitcoin safely, so we'll be watching to see when an ETF finally gets approved. The next story here. Deutsche Bank says 52% of its investors expect Bitcoin below 60K in 12 months. A lot of their investors are projecting that Bitcoin is going to cut in half in the next 12 months, although there's a huge range from their clients saying what they think it will be. Of course, they're bearish. Who cares? The banks are never going to get it. We already know that. But what I find so important to realize here is that only 23% of respondents said they had ever bought Bitcoin for their personal investments. So let's just go out and pool a bunch of no-coiners and see what they think about the price of Bitcoin. It's absurd, it's stupid, and nobody cares. So get out of here, Deutsche Bank. Peace. Market wrap. Elon candle effect fades quickly as Bitcoin retreats below 55K. Yeah, Tesla announced that they were going to allow people to buy cars with Bitcoin. And what's even more compelling about that news is that they're not going to sell the Bitcoin. They're going to hold it. So you're going to buy a car with Bitcoin and Tesla is going to hold it. Effectively, they're buying Bitcoin with cars. Now, most merchants who accept Bitcoin have an immediate transaction where it goes into fiat so that they're not taxed and it's not complicated. So they actually do not hold the Bitcoin. They end up in fiat. So it really is huge news. But what we're talking about here is the effect of it on the market. And it was minimal. We saw a small pump, but then the correction continued. No big surprises here. Each time Elon tweets, the effect reduces and it just continues going down each time. No big deal. The market's going to do what the market's going to do. But for mainstream adoption and for other companies coming in, this is still absolutely huge. Next piece of news, Bitcoin traders brace for record $6 billion in options to expire on Friday. Now, expiries are the last Friday of every month for Bitcoin futures and other futures. So we are always watching those, and we often see that price is held down before expiration, which we are actually seeing now. There's a lot of people saying that we could see a major capitulation down to 44,000 by tomorrow, because that would inflict max pain on buyers of option contracts. It might be the most profitable price point for options sellers. It's a remote risk, but not one to be discounted. I don't see it happening, but it's definitely possible. It happened before, and so now everybody talks about it, but they obviously discount all the times it didn't happen, which is almost every single time. But even if we do see that happen, even if we see price drop down to 44,000, it could be one of those long wicks, something very temporary, and then once options expire, we could see price rise to much higher prices. And why do I think that? Because Bitcoin options traders position for gains to 80K, in historically bullish April. We've heard the absurd narrative that March is bad. I could not care less what happened in Marches of the past. It's a completely different asset and a completely different year. But if that is the kind of narrative that you buy into, then there are bright skies ahead, because April has been historically bullish. In fact, we're seeing on Deribit that there's $80,000 calls that represent a bet that Bitcoin would settle above that level by April 30th. 80,000 by April 30th. Now let's dig in. It says the total open interest in the 80,000 call options is 4,469 contracts, or $240 million at press time. It's $240 million betting that Bitcoin will be above 80,000 by the end of April. Now, Deribit is the most popular platform for trading Bitcoin options. Really, all there is to note here is that if you believe March is bearish, then you should believe by the same rationale that April will be bullish, and there's plenty of people betting on that being the fact. Now, that's all the key news, so let's dive right into the charts and see what we're looking at. Now, very notably here, I have the daily chart. Of course, I always show you the monthly and weekly charts. If you zoom out, there's nothing bearish, so it's not even really worth reviewing. But as we go into the 1 day chart, it is really interesting. The blue line here is the 50 MA. The red line here is the 200 MA. They're the most commonly used moving averages by traders. And you can see that Bitcoin is testing the 50 MA as support today for the first time since January. And it had not been tested since it broke above in October of last year, on October 8th, 2020. And it had broken down in September. So it spent roughly 1 month below that line before inevitably breaking above, and it's only been retested one time since. This should hold as support in theory. If it breaks down, we can look back to here as an example of what may possibly happen, trading slightly below it for quite a while before gaining strength and trading back above. But I'm not particularly concerned right now about further downside. Here we have the 4-hour chart for Bitcoin, and you can see that we're seeing a strong reaction to a clear area of demand and support here. Now, notably, looking at the same MAs on the 4-hour, Bitcoin did break down from the 50, retest it as resistance, and then it broke the 200, which you do not want to see, and retested as resistance with these two candles here with long wicks up, showing that there was a lot of selling. As you zoom back, you can see that the 200 has held as support for quite a long time. We haven't been below it since February 21st or so. Right here, I'm showing you the two key areas of demand and support that I'm watching. That would be this area between 50,640 and 49,540. And if that loses, we should see very strong support between 47,000 and 48,000. Now, drilling in further to the 4-hour chart, we can see that we finally had a closed and oversold RSI. As we know, RSI inevitably makes the trip overbought, oversold, to overbought, and back to oversold. My favorite signal, if we can get it, is a bullish divergence with RSI. We had it almost here, but it was not meant to be. We did not see a confirmation with a clear elbow up in RSI, and we now have a lower close. It is still possible on the 6-hour, and we are still seeing on the 1-hour that we have confirmed bullish divergence. But on the 4-hour, I love to see it. It's my favorite reversal signal, so I'd be looking for something like this. We come out of oversold, make a slightly higher low on RSI and head up. Price comes out, makes a slightly lower low and heads up, and then you have bullish divergence here. That is what I will personally be watching for, but it's not the only signal. We could just go straight up from here without ever seeing it. That is all of the news and all of the charts that I'm looking at today. I would love to know what you guys think, so please go ahead and comment down below and let me know your thoughts on all of the things that I've shared. Where do you think Bitcoin price is going, and when do you think it's going to get there? Now, thanks once again. I am Scott Melker, also known as the Wolf of Wall Streets, and I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.